Feedback gives students the opportunity to try again with better information. Feedback is gold, and I know that you know that. However, we do run into issues because feedback is not scarce. Feedback is all around us, and think of it, it's human nature. If there is something that we have an abundance of, that's all around us, we tend to take that for granted. Feedback is not scarce. But what is sometimes scarce for us as teachers is the students' willingness to identify that opportunity and take appropriate action based on the feedback that was given. That's what is sometimes scarce. And that leads us, that leads teachers to often ask that question that many teachers ask: how do I effectively teach the unmotivated student? How do I motivate this student? Feedback is all around us, and we take it for granted. Adults do as well. Let me give you some stats here. Half of new gym memberships, they end within the first 6 months. Half of new gym memberships, they end in the first 6 months. Now, ultimately, you can imagine, as we marry that statistic with this next statistic, which is most gym memberships begin in January. Makes sense, right? People realize, I need to get some stuff in order. I need to do better. I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna make it happen. So people they're taking in this feedback. Got to get in shape. I'm winded just climbing just one simple flight of steps and I'm out of breath. So that's the feedback. They take in that feedback, then they take action. But just 6 months later, just imagine this. As you go from January to June, you see high attendance. I'm going to the gym 3 times a week. Then we get around February, maybe, I missed that one. Now I'm down to maybe two times a week. Then March hits. Now we're regularly going 1 to 2 times a week. Then we get to April. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's once every other week or something like that. And then by June, half of those people have fallen off. Now, remember, the feedback was the same, and feedback is and always will be the opportunity to try again with better information. We've got better information. This information sets us up for success. But those statistics remain true. People respond to that feedback in such a way, whereas half of them decide, you know what, I'm done with this. This is not worth it to me to change my habits and continue to pursue. Here's another one for you. According to a 2018 study, nearly half of COPD patients continue to smoke after being diagnosed. So these people, they have received the information that, hey, you know why it's hard for you to breathe? You've got some bad stuff going on with your lungs. You need to stop smoking. That's the feedback. And that's simple, ladies and gentlemen. They can get that feedback anywhere. That feedback is all around them. You need to stop smoking. You need to stop smoking. You need to take better care of yourself. But half of those patients, they've identified that feedback, but they have not taken the appropriate actions based on the feedback given. Does that sound familiar, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, it should sound familiar, because for every teacher, that sounds familiar. If you've been in the classroom for any amount of time, you've been confused, you've been frustrated by students who just seemingly, like, they're not valuing, like, you can diagnose what the issue is. You can help them turn things around if they would just listen to you and take action based on the advice that you're given. Feedback is all around us. Feedback is not scarce, everyone. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, this is the podcast for teachers who want to gain more leadership skills so that they can ultimately influence students to make the right decision. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, the students, they have to take some action. They have to take some action. So I'm your host, Marvin Bird. We here believe that teachers are leaders, and our purpose is to equip you with the leadership skills that you need to lead your students to success and beyond. Now, when I was in the classroom, whenever I heard students say this, it would just really worry me. When I heard students say, I need to get my grades up. Ooh, that was a cause for concern with me, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it sounds nice, doesn't it? Student is identifying, I need to get my grades up. Oh, what that history, experience, what that taught me was that the student is placing more emphasis on what the grade looked like than on valuing what can be gained by earning the grade. Once again, the value, the importance was what the grade looked like, as opposed to understanding the work that was going to have to be put in and the learning that would take place through earning the grade. So the student, they had a misunderstanding of the input that it would take in order to get the desired output. And I often would see students who would say that they would, after time passed, they would be frustrated. They would be frustrated because it was easy to say, I got to get my grades up. I want better grades. But with a misunderstanding of what it was going to take in order to make that happen, that would cause frustration. And that would lead them to say, "Oh, it doesn't take all that. Oh, you're just doing too much. I don't need to do all that." That was the frustration. That was, and it was very sad to watch, because I could identify that cycle. And oftentimes I would tell students, when they told me I need to get my grades up, I would say, here's what has happened to students in the past who had that attitude. Perhaps let me enlighten you. Let me guide you in a different way of thinking. And again, feedback. Feedback is all around us. Ladies and gentlemen, what we need to do is we need to find a way, because the new school year is coming. Tomorrow is coming. Students, they're coming. They're going to enter into our classroom, and they're going to present us with these challenges. And as teachers, as leaders, it's our job to find ways to address this. So today we're talking about feedback. So what I want to do is I want to share with you, and I'm going to link this into the description section, but this is a wonderful article. So the title of this article is Using Synchronous Formative Feedback to Facilitate Student Growth, and it's written by Lisa Martin. We're not going to get into the weeds of formative feedback, but what we're going to do is we're going to highlight something that she wrote in her conclusion as she was discussing the challenges here. And I think that this is very, very important, and this drives the point home that I made earlier. She says, student motivation and agency play a significant role in how feedback is received and applied. Consequently, even when feedback is well crafted, there is no guarantee students will grow or develop in the desired manner. According to author Susan Brookhart, in the end, what matters is what the student does. Feedback is deeply connected to emotion, self-worth, and identity, and therefore student motivation plays a notable role in feedback utility. The students have to do something with the feedback. Students must actively engage with and apply prescriptive action to effect change. Yes, yes, yes. Students can also realize change through increased effort. It's important, or focus. However, students might also choose to reject or modify feedback. Now, again, it's one thing to give the feedback. It's an entirely different question as to whether or not the feedback is processed and applied correctly. And that is our job, ladies and gentlemen. We gotta try. We can't make students do anything, but it's our job to try to find ways, and that's why you're here. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you three ways to create an environment that embraces feedback. Once again, I want to share with you three ways to encourage students to embrace feedback and take action. That's what we're going to do. That's the goal here. I'm going to share with you three tips. The first thing I want to share with you is the ladder of feedback. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to have some kind of a formula when it comes to sharing your feedback. Why do we do this? We do this because it's first of all, it's good to have consistency. And if you have a framework that you're using to share your feedback, it becomes second nature, because it's a habit that you have. And even if it can be a formal sit down with the student, or it can be just on the fly, you can go through these steps and give the student this information and put it together in this nice package. What it does is it leaves them feeling good. And the consistency, when students realize, oh, this is the same for everybody else, what that does is it disarms the student when if they have any ideas that you're showing favoritism to students who perhaps they consistently perform well. Okay, once they take a look around and they see, oh, you're doing the same thing with that student that you do with me. That's the same way they get feedback. That's the same way I get feedback. So the expectations that you have of that student who performs well, it must be the same expectations that you have for me. So that's why you want to have a formula. And then also, when you have a formula, when you have a template in your mind for when you give feedback, what it does is it helps you to not say the wrong thing. It helps you to not step in traps, so that if the student gets defensive, they'll still hold on to that one thing that you may have misspoke, or maybe it didn't come out the right way, and now they don't want to hear your feedback. They don't want to apply your feedback. They're trying to understand, well, what do you mean by this? So I suggest having a formula ready when you give your feedback. So let's look at this one. This is called the feedback ladder. You're climbing the ladder. That's why it begins at the bottom. Now, this infographic I will also make available to you as well in the description section for download. Now, step one, what we're going to do is we're going to clarify. We're going to ask questions. We want to understand, hey, how do you feel about your performance. Again, just getting the student talking. All right, step 2. This is important. This is important because sometimes feedback doesn't, it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. So when you do this by disarming them, by saying, "Hey, I appreciate you. I love having you in my class. This is a joy. I really do." And so you just be specific about some of the positives that you observe. Show them that you see them as individuals. Next up, now we're getting into, hey, there's some things that we need to work on. So use prompts such as, "Hey, I noticed that," or "Can you tell me about," or what do you think about? So we're having a conversation. We're getting the student talking, and hopefully our goal here is we're trying to get the student to see what we're seeing. We're trying to get the student to see the things that we see that need to be addressed. And if you do this right, this is another reason why we have this formula, because now we've got buy-in, we've got collaboration. We're working together on this thing. And then next up is suggest. You are the expert. You've been doing this. You know the history of students in your classroom, and if they do this, then this tends to happen. So now you can offer suggestions based on the things that you've been sharing previously. And then last but not least, you want to say thanks. You want to say, "Hey, thank you for the time. Thank you for the time that you've given to have this conversation." And then you need to let them know, "Hey, I want you to succeed. I know you can do this. I believe in you." So you just end on that high note. And there you have it. That is a nice formula for giving feedback to students. And you know what that does, ladies and gentlemen, when you have that nice formula or template in your mind, is that gives them, it leaves them feeling good. Because remember, you value them, and then at the end you thank them. So ideally, hopefully, what you've done is you've taken down their defenses, and you've given them a reason to want to engage, to want to take action based on the feedback that you've given. All right, so that's number 1. You gotta have a template for giving feedback, and I submitted that to you. And again, that will be available in the description section. Now, before I get to number 2, what I want to submit to you is this, ladies and gentlemen. This upcoming school year will be the first school year since 2006, 2007 that I will not have signed a contract. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I resigned my position as assistant principal as a local high school here in St. Louis, Missouri, primarily because I wanted to invest more time in my family. I was missing so much with the long days, late nights, supervision, and all those kinds of things. So I wanted to invest more time in my family, and I'm doing that, and I'm loving that. But also, I want to invest more time in you. I want to be available to research, give you best practices here, help you by giving you the skills that you need to lead your students to success. So to that end, ladies and gentlemen, what I would ask, whenever you shop at Amazon, if you use the link in the description section, if you use that link, you have the right to purchase anything you want at the same price. But whenever you use that link, whatever you buy, whatever you purchase, you send a commission my way. And if you were to consider doing that, I would greatly appreciate that. And then also in the description section, I have started a storefront where I review certain products and I submit them to you for purchase. I'm going to link to that. If you were to buy anything from there, and I'm curating a lot of products that I think would be great for teachers. So if you were to purchase anything from that storefront, again, same thing, the same price that everyone else in the world pays, but you would send a commission this way. And if you were to do that, I would greatly, greatly appreciate you for that. And I promise in return that I'll be here more often, giving you the very, very best that I got. So thank you so much to those of you who are already doing that. I see you. I appreciate you. And to those of you who are considering, I appreciate you as well. Thank you so much. Now, back to this. So I shifted during my last 3 years in the classroom. I shifted. I had to shift some things. Number one, I flipped my classroom. And that was great because we got an opportunity to have more in-depth conversations about the content in the classroom, as opposed to them just watching me and taking notes as I was telling stories that I was so very interested in. I was a social studies teacher, U.S. history primarily. So I did for years. I did the notes. You guys take notes. Take the notes. But I discovered another way. I discovered another way during my last 3 years of teaching. Additionally, I decided, I realized that we were going to have to do some different things with our kids. So we went to a Love and Logic session on parenting. And I discovered also that Love and Logic could be used in the classroom. And one of the things that I really liked was, and this is the second thing to help students embrace feedback and take action, was students who, ... Students who. Now, I kind of teased this a little bit earlier, but it's simply this. I got tired of in my grade book, I think we used SIS at the time, and whenever you put a 0 in the grade book, there's this yellow box. And I got tired of opening up my grade book and just seeing all these yellows here and there and everywhere. Like, students, they weren't doing the homework. Now, I know, those of you out there, you probably don't have that problem. So it probably was just me. But no, seriously, I know, students not doing their homework. I know that is, there's just so many things that compete for their time once they leave the classroom. But I do want to say, if you have an idea to help, to offer the community an idea that's worked to encourage students to do their homework, I want you to please share it in the comments section. Please do that. Please help this community out, enlighten the community. If there's a strategy that you use to increase student homework completion, please share that with the group. Thank you so much for that. So what I decided to do was, because remember, I had flipped my classroom, and the time that we spent in class was for workshop. It was for workshopping. It was for discussion. But the assignments that I gave for homework, they were given. What I did was I gave them all up front, and I allowed the students to work at their own pace. But then what I decided to do was, okay, instead of these 10 assignments for this unit, instead of requiring all of them to be completed, I'm only going to require 3 of them completed. And if you don't do the other 7, that's not going to count against you. I will give them to you, but that's not going to count against you if you don't do them. Now, also, in addition to that, they were outlining the chapter of the book. So in some cases, they didn't need to do those 7 assignments. So I changed my thinking. But for those students who I knew were going to need a little extra, they were going to need a little bit extra time in the content, I knew, man, you need to do all of these assignments. Now, maybe this student over here doesn't need to do all the assignments. Maybe they can get by with just 3, but you over here, you need to do all those assignments. I know you. I know that it's best for you. You need to do all those assignments. So students are different. So the way I talk to those students who needed to do all of those assignments, but they didn't want to. I got it. like their eyes lit up when I told them, okay, here's these assignments, but you don't have to do them. Their eyes just lit up. They're like, what? They're like, oh, this is Christmas. Oh, this is awesome. So it's not going to affect my grade? Oh, say no more. So here's how I talk to those students. And again, second tip, students who. Here's what I would say. I've been teaching this class for a while, and students who do these assignments, they tend to score better on the test. That's it. That's it. So what's the purpose of that? The purpose of that is to get them thinking about the feedback when they get it. You want to engage their brain. Like, think of a TikTok. Think of a TikTok, and I'm still trying to learn TikTok. My wife is very critical of my TikTok videos. Basically, in a loving way, she's telling me that my TikToks are boring, and like there's like her finger really wants to just keep moving once she starts my TikTok. So I'm trying to get better at that. But I want you to think about TikTok when you're giving your students feedback. You've got to find a way. That's why I like this strategy. This is from Love and Logic. Students who insert that action and insert the positive result as because they did that action. You want students thinking about taking that action. That is the difference. That's the point. We are constantly, as teachers, we're challenged to come up with ways to make our feedback stick. And I really like this because what it also does, and Love and Logic likes to do this, it gives them an opportunity to make a decision. It empowers them to make a decision. You're not telling them to do it. You're submitting it to them, but you're also submitting it to them with your expertise. What you've seen it happen before. You know it happens before. You're the expert. You know that what you're saying could possibly get them the results that they want. So that's how you make them think. You make them think about what their next step is going to be. What are you going to do with this information? I'm telling you, students who do these assignments, to the best of their ability, they tend to score better on the test. Now, the opposite is true. Students who do not do these 7 assignments, they tend not to do as well on the test. So now you're proposing to the student, what side of this do you want to be on? That's number 2. I love that. I love it. Love and Logic. And I am excited about talking more about Love and Logic and sharing more Love and Logic with you. Now, here's the next one. And this one is a little bit, it's a little bit deeper, but I like it a lot, and I think that this can really add some value to you, especially for those students who say things like, I've never been good at social studies, or I'm not good at math. Students who come into your class with that kind of attitude, you need to, I know it's difficult, but it's important to invest time in them because you have to change the way that they think. And for some students, you can do it corporately by the things that you do in the culture, affect the culture in your classroom and the environment. But some students, they need more of your time. So number three is you have to prove that you understand their problem and give them solutions. Now, that the proving that you understand their problem, that part right there, that's the part that takes a little bit of time. That's the part possibly you're not going to achieve that corporately. You may have to work. You may have to spend a lot of one-on-one time with that student to show them that you understand what's going on. Now, here's the step. Like, obviously you're going to have to meet with a student one-on-one. I know what I know what you're thinking. You're going to think, how am I going to find time to do this? Well, there are times when, students are working at their desk. Maybe perhaps that's time. If you have a study hall time where students are allowed to travel, and I know you're thinking that too, like, they don't travel to my class, they walk the halls. I know what you're thinking. I know it. I know it. But that is a possible time that you can meet with them. And definitely, ladies and gentlemen, I am not going to submit that you give up your free time after school, because definitely you want to achieve that work-life balance. So if that's not something that you're interested in doing, then I don't blame you. Okay. So I would say try to find time in your class to meet with students who especially need that one-on-one attention, because they just have that bad attitude, the negative mindset. Perhaps they've been scarred by previous experiences with your content, and they're just so down on themselves. And so what they need is they need to be fully convinced that you understand what the problem is before they can even come to a place where they're open to accepting your solution. Because often these are the students who say, I've tried everything. It just doesn't work. I've studied. I know how to study. I've studied and it just didn't work. Sorry, it doesn't work for me. So step number one here is you have to get them answering open-ended questions about their performance. Okay. Now here's a few examples. Is there anything you would like to improve on in my class? Again, open-ended questions, and you're going to have to do some work here, because obviously with that question, if they say no, then okay, how about this? How about that? Like, what are you seeing here? I noticed that you're going to have to open them up. How can I help you now that we have this one-on-one time? Okay, so you're stating that, hey, we're here, I'm here, you're here. And you know what? Sometimes it's probably best to give the student an advance notice that, hey, we're going to have this time together. Okay. And then here's another question. I know your last test grade was not what you were used to. Can you tell me what happened? So again, we're opening things up. We're preparing for a conversation. Then next, what I want you to do is I want you to ask follow-up questions with the intent of identifying barriers to success. Okay? So at this point, what you are is you're like a doctor. You're like a doctor. You're asking questions. You're trying to understand, and I want you to take notes. I want the student to see you taking notes, and I want you locked in. I want you leaning forward if it doesn't intimidate them. But I just want you like this, like you're pensive. You're trying to understand. Remember this strategy. We got to prove to them that we understand the problem. So you're like a doctor listening to your patient. Then this is what I want you to do at a later time, not right there. At a later time, I want you to present your ideas for solutions to the problems and the challenges. So what this does is it shows empathy, right? And what also happens is you now have an investment from the student. So check this out. So when you give when you submit these ideas to the student at a later time, okay, because and the reason for doing this at a later time is you want to show the student, hey, I'm not just listening to you and just giving you canned responses. I'm giving you something fresh. I took what you told me, the information that you gave me, and I thought about it, and this is what I came up with. Now, what you can do, you can email this to the student. Here it goes. Here's some examples. You said you had problems focusing. Well, I was thinking about doing a new seating chart anyways. Would you like for me to sit you closer to my desk? Here's another one. You mentioned you needed help understanding polynomials. Can we make an agreement that you come see me during study hall for 2 weeks? Again, this is your diagnosis. Your diagnosis. I understand your problem. This is what you said. Here is my solution. When you get stuck, because you notice you told me that you get stuck often, and when you get stuck, you look at your phone. Can we agree the next time solution? Can we agree the next time you get stuck is that you ask a shoulder partner for help? Again, simple diagnosis, and perhaps it won't work the first time. But I believe that going through the energy and the effort of stating what they listed as the problem, restating what they listed as a problem, then offering your solutions next to it. Again, I think that earns you a lot of points in terms of showing empathy and understanding them as individuals. And I think what that does is that will compel the student to think about your feedback and quite possibly take action. So again, you can follow up with another one-on-one meeting, or you can send an email. But what I'm telling you is, don't do this immediately. Wait at least 24 hours. I want the student thinking that you thought long and hard. You were researching. You were doing your very best to understand them, diagnose a problem, and give them really good information. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know that may sound generic, but it matters. How the biggest one of the biggest challenges that we have in terms of motivating students is how they think. So you've got to do things slightly different, things that you can do corporately. You can easily do corporately. Sometimes you've got to remix those things just a little bit, take it on a smaller level, take it on a one-to-one level, remix it a little bit, make it personal. And it could be that little tweak that changes the way that one student thinks, so that they value the relationship they have with you. They value your effort to understand them. And then, oh, okay, well, maybe I will try your solution. Maybe I'll give it a try, because I like you. I like you a little bit, teacher. So maybe I will try what you suggested I do. All right. So those are 3 tips. Let's summarize those. Number 1, you gotta have a formula. Have a formula for giving feedback. Okay, you've got to have that. And once you have that formula, you can remix it. You can tweak it, do different things with it, and be really flexible with it. And then number 2, students who ... Students who ... So what you're doing there, you're giving the student something to think about. Students who do this tend to earn that. So you want students to think about, they want to think about the positive side. You don't want them thinking about the opposite side, because students who don't do this, well, they don't get that. You don't want them, you want them to understand that, I want the positives of this. So maybe I'll do this action. Now, number 3, prove that you understand the problem and give them solutions. And again, that goes so much deeper, so much deeper. You're building, you're strengthening a relationship, you're showing empathy, you're like a doctor, and then you're coming back at a later time and you're giving them their words back and you're offering solutions, building relationship, building trust so that you can possibly change something that's going on up here and giving them a reason to take action on your feedback. Well, that is our episode for today. I thank you so much for being here with me. And so, once again, please consider, I should say, checking out those Amazon links in the description section. Once again, thank you to those of you who are doing that, and thank you to those of you who are considering that. Really, really appreciate it. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please join in the discussion. Please leave a comment. Again, those of you who are able to, if you've got a strategy that works to get students to turn in their homework, please go ahead and share that. And then lastly, I'll ask you to be one of the subscribers on the YouTube page. If you do that, I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you so much. And until we meet again, never, ever forget that teachers are leaders.